I was actually going to ask you about that. What role do you think he's going to have? Because him and Edmonds, whenever they were in the preseason, were a really nice dynamic duo.
I'm so ready to talk about it, baby.
When they were safety, because I think Minkah was sitting out a decent portion of that.
I'm so ready to talk about it.
Could we have? I'm guessing it's probably the answer is yes to all of it. We have Kazee running some Minkah stuff as like the free safety, and then have Minkah just roam around the field, do his thing, Troy Polamalu style.
So check it out.
Kazee doing some slot corner.
The way it's going to work is this: 3 safeties. That's what they're rolling with. Think instead of all of the nickel and big nickel that we played. Big nickel is when we would take out your Jameer Jones or your Malik Reed or whoever was the backside DN, and we would put Isaiah Loudermilk, DeMarvin Leal, Cam Hayward. They would go out there, right? But we would bring in Arthur Mallette. We would bring in or bump in Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton. So now the pros are you're going to be really good coverage-wise, right? But the cons are versus the run game, you're getting little DBs having to set the edge at time. If they pull a guard, if they pull a tackle or a center, or a tight end lead blocking, that's Arthur Mallette trying to set that edge. Or sometimes he's having to fill into that B gap. He can do it, but like we said, it's a very big difference when it's a little slot corner. Before you had Damontae Kazee, the question was, okay, could you run 3 safeties with Trey Norwood? We tried it, but we talked about Trey Norwood wasn't as consistent when we had put him out there at times. So the alternative was you go back to the more consistent players, which are your slot corners. Now, what you have in Kazee, you have 3 big body guys that can, number 1, play the run, but number 2, can all cover. We've seen Edmonds step up his coverage this year. Even last year, we saw a step up. We know what Minkah can do from a coverage perspective. Damontae Kazee, like you talked about, led the league in interceptions. Was that 2018, 2019 season? So with all 3 of those guys, they're big, rangy safeties that can cover and they can play the run. So now, when you go 3 safeties out there, offense can't just say, oh, we're going to check the run. Nah, because now that's not a mismatch you got anymore. That's a safety that's going to come downhill and hit somebody. You see what I mean?
Yeah, but we saw Kazee in the preseason. He was lighting dudes up. And Edmonds has been lighting dudes up, and so is Minkah.
And now, okay, I can't just check to a run because you're in, 3 safeties. Look, okay, let me go to the pass. Well, now it's not a mismatch either because we actually got guys that can cover, guys that can actually win. All 3 of those guys can play the post. In terms of that middle field safety, all 3 of those guys can play the half field safety. All 3 of those guys can match up man to man. Now, obviously, we love Edmonds more on a tight end than you would say a slot receiver. But
sure,
a Damontae Kazee, we've seen him be able to cover some of those dudes. With Minkah, we know how he plays as well, man. So with all 3 of those guys, you got a lot of flexibility. So I do anticipate seeing a lot more of this 3 safety look like we were seeing in the preseason because of how all 3 of those guys are athletically and the productivity is there, and they're not young players. So communication, you don't have to worry about a drop off there. All 3 of those dudes know how to talk. They all have been, big parts of that position or having to communicate wherever they've been at. So that's the other thing that I do feel like we will see a good amount of it, where we'll be able to feel like, oh yeah, we 3 safeties out here now.
You don't think it'll necessarily be slotted, like we can't have in this formation Minkah and Kazee back there and Edmonds up. Like, you know what I mean? That can't be a combination. But what you're saying is maybe it can't. Like, we can have Minkah, Kazee back there and Edmonds up on one.
Say it again.
I'm saying, like, it's not just, like, slotted where, all right, Kazee's only going to be playing free safety and slot corner. But maybe sometimes it could be Kazee and Minkah back there. Yeah. Edmonds up.
Yes.
Just all over the place.
Yeah, because think about this.
Yeah, I said that word.
Yeah, because at first we was talking, like, bro, I'm getting a little lost. But we've already seen Edmonds and Minkah doing that, right? We've seen plays where Edmonds has to walk down into that box. We've seen plays where Edmonds walks down in his man-to-man. We've seen him walk down when it's zone, when it's cover 3. So they've already had that imprint. So the beauty of that is when you cut it on tape now and you bring a Kazee out there, you can't just say, well, we've never seen Edmonds down in the box before. We've never seen Minkah play in the post. We've never seen Minkah rock. We've seen all that, so it's not a telltale sign. There's no indication of what you're going to be trying to do because of how they've set it up. And even in the preseason, minus Minkah, that also allowed them to get tape on Damontae down in the box, back in the safety spot, or back in the middle of the field, half field. We've seen him do it all. So once again, if I'm an offensive coordinator, if I'm a person on offense watching tape, there's still no tip right there. There's no telltale sign, which is huge when you're talking about some of these package groupings. Because if that's Arthur Mallette, right? You're never going to see Arthur Mallette playing in the post. You're never going to see him playing in the middle of the field. So if he's out there with those two guys, you could kind of dictate, oh, he's going to be here with Trey Norwood. We could tell, all right, they're playing him right here as a slot today. He's going to exclusively be right here. They're not putting him back in the middle of this field. Oh, he's back there. Man, they're not going to walk him down in his box. Like, you just kind of could tell with how they've been using him. So that's the thing. Whereas with all three of these dudes, there is no tell because they've used all three of them interchangeably at various points in time. So to me, I mean, I think it's just all good with Kazee coming back, man. I think it's really going to help this defense out. And he has ball skills. So when you're talking about turnovers, we're adding a guy that led the league in turnovers, led the league in interceptions. Like, that's a huge, huge boost on top of getting the TJ Watt back, man.
Yeah, basically, we don't care about what their position designation
you see what I'm
is.
saying? Yeah.
Because what I was getting at is just because, like, Kazee's considered a free safety and Minka's a free safety, that doesn't mean we can't still both have them out as the backfield safeties on a play.
Not at all.
Bring Edmonds up.
Think about it. How many, like, for every play that we've seen Minka jumping routes in the middle of the field, big hits, interceptions, that means that Terrell Edmonds is in the middle of the deep middle of the field holding it down. The same things that people say he can't do, he's already been proven that he could do, not just this year, last year. So when you talk about how they're interchangeable, that's already there. Kazee, we already know can do those things. Right. That's on his tape from Atlanta. And then even in the preseason. So across the board, yeah, it doesn't matter how they want to label those dudes. We've already seen how they use those guys, and they've already shown that they are capable of producing there as well. And that's all you want to see, man. Manscaped, the leaders in below the waistline grooming. And more importantly, their performance package, the 4.0. That's the one I like to use because it does keep them short and curlies short and nice and neat looking. You know, they say if you keep the grass low, the tree will continue to show. But the way you do that is with that Lawnmower 4.0, the one that has the light that goes on and off the different guards. I mean, it is waterproof. It is one of those things where it prevents or really helps reduce those nicks and cuts because nobody wants to get nicked and cut down there. That is not cool in any circumstances. All right. But then on top of that, man, when you talk about all the other products that they dish out, man, the revolver for your revolver, not a revolver. You don't want a revolver on your dangly twins. You want a reviver down there. You want a toner down there. Definitely don't want a revolver down there. Whatever you do, don't put that down there. All right. But on top of that, if we're going to talk about anything, we're going to have promo codes for you, baby. And this promo code is as simple as it can be. It's MOATS. You use that, you get 20% off along with free shipping worldwide at manscaped.com. So stop wasting times. Make sure you go ahead and handle what you need to handle so that way your short and dangly twins and friends and whoever else gets to interact will be enjoying themselves. So shout out to Manscaped.